We'll now link up with Eshomo Moimodu and Tijesu Adeoye in Abuja studio for FCT Brief. Good morning, and how is Abuja going on?
Yeah, Etoma, good morning.
Etoma, yeah. I was about to call you Veronica.
It's been raining, so Abuja is quite cold. It's been raining in Abuja.
All right, what you guys have to discuss today is not a very pleasant one, and I will quickly allow you go ahead and do it.
All right. Just before we bring that up, I think the Northeast governors had a meeting and saying that they are forming a coalition against to fight insecurity and also to ensure that they have armoury offices in all the states. Let's see if they take the armouries off the street, we won't have this available hands for Boko Haram to recruit from.
Well, it's quite an unfortunate one that we are still talking insecurity despite, several efforts. It's not the first time that the governors will be meeting and taking some kind of action, and yet we still see insecurity persist, especially with the recent explosion that we saw in Maiduguri with the explosives and all. It's just a stark reminder that, insecurity, the war against insecurity is not yet over, and the military still has a lot to deal with. More pressure is mounting on them, to keep people safe with overstretched resources, manpower, and everything. It's just, commendations. We give a lot of commendations to the military and all that, but at some point we need to ask some demands. The tough questions, Are we really winning this fight against terror? Just
as we get more ammunition, we must make sure that the ones we have are kept very well so that we don't lose them.
Yes.
Now, let's give you what we have today. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to FCT Brief, a segment of TVC Breakfast program. An explosion has occurred in Giwa Barracks, a popular military detention facility where many former Boko Haram fighters are believed to be held in Maiduguri, Borno State. But the authorities have attributed the incident to heat, dismissing claims that terrorists were responsible for it. In a statement on Thursday, the theater commander of Operation Hadinkai, Major General Abdusalam Abubakar, confirmed that the explosion at an ammunition storage facility in Giwa Barracks was caused by extreme heat conditions in the area. Fortunately, the situation was swiftly brought under control through the collaborative efforts of military firefighters, the Federal Fire Service, and the Borno State Fire Service Department. Civilians in the immediate vicinity were also relocated to prevent any harm to the public.
Shortly after, the Air Component Operation Hadinkai and the Nigerian Army Unmanned Aerial Vehicle Command conducted area surveillance over the incident scene and the surrounding areas of Maiduguri metropolis. This allowed them to determine the extent of the explosion and guide rescue efforts. Also, troops from Operation Hadinkai were strategically deployed to prevent any potential misuse of the situation by criminals and to safeguard law-abiding citizens. For more on these happenings in Borno State, let's speak with a retired U.S. Army security consultant, Captain Bishop Johnson, and he joins us live via Zoom. Also joining us, we have in Lagos, we have a security consultant with expertise on weapons and ammunition management, retired Group Captain Sadiq Garba Shehu. It's good to have you on the program this morning, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, and good morning.
Good morning to you.
Thank you, Group Captain.
Well, Group Captain, I'll begin with you. With the temperatures in Maiduguri, hitting 42 degrees, storing explosives is like a disaster waiting to happen. Is the military really equipped to handle this kind of risk?
Well,
yeah. Yes, Group Captain.
Is that for me?
Yes.
The question for me, the question is it for my friend?
For Group Captain, please. Group Captain Sadiq.
Okay. Yes, ammunition management is one of the trainings that military personnel are given. And we have experts within the military, who are trained to store and handle ammunition, to design armouries that can withstand issues like this excessive heat and other distractions. However, it is always, sometimes in the tempo of operation, it could be that some, precautionary measures were not taken, and that's what we are seeing here. But certainly there are specialists within the military in armament, that are trained to ensure that ammunition is not only procured, but it is stored in guidance documents that are always given. Whenever you buy an ammunition or any explosive, it comes with technical guidance. How do you keep it? At what temperature? What kind of building? Even the building material? What distances you will keep from different kinds of ammunition? And also periodic checking to ensure that there is no leakage, old ammunition is removed, new ones is brought. All these are things that are within the military expertise.
Now, Captain Bish, considering what the group captain had just said, and despite that we had this explosion, I remember some years back we had a similar explosion somewhere in Ikeja that led to the death of so many people. Now, would you say that an element of negligence is also there, because it said when such equipment are brought in, it comes with guidelines how it should be kept. So what exactly is the situation? Captain Bish.
Okay, yeah. Good morning, and thank you for having me. Hope you can hear me.
Very well. Very well.
Okay. Yes, I see this issue of weapon explosion is not something that is very rampant here in Nigeria, and it is also not something that is unique to Nigeria. I have not seen it happen, unusually here in Nigeria. And I have also seen it happen in other places. Like the group captain said, the military is equipped with this, specialized skills on how to handle, ammunition. And I think that so far, considering the antecedent of Nigerian Armed Forces, it has not been a very serious problem. However, accidents do happen when you move them. These are very unstable equipment. Probably the most unstable equipment you have in the armed forces is, explosives. And so every little mistake usually have a huge impact. And so from what I, can make off of it, there could have been mistake in the handling of those explosives that led to that explosion. So it's usually not very, it's not a problem that is peculiar to Nigeria. If you had the following trend globally, there was an incident too in Iran where there was a huge explosion that was suspected to be explosion of, that have come from the explosives exploding. So this kind of things do happen. No matter how advanced or how skillful you are, there will be one or two instances where there could be a mistake.
All right, Group Captain Garba, I would like to ask you, could this also be a ticking time bomb for the civilians and, the military themselves? Shouldn't there be safer systems for storing these explosives?
Yes, again, there are international guidance on how to know where to site, how.
Your group captain. Okay, Captain Bish, let's come to you if you're there with us.
Can you answer the question I asked?
Well, we seem to have a challenge with both our network there.
All right.
Okay, Captain Bish, are you there?
Captain Garba.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's just said international best practice. I think it happens everywhere. But you see, my worry is that there are some accidents that are not
avoidable.
That are avoidable and that should not be. Mm-hmm. For instance, a medical doctor. Mm-hmm. Accident is an accident. Imagine a medical doctor that's supposed to administer a particular medication to a patient and mistakenly administer the medication that caused the life of the patient.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wouldn't want to attribute it to carelessness, even though it somewhat appears to be so, because like the group captain said, they are supposed to be standard best practices in storing this kind of explosives. We're talking about explosives, and this is something that, you know, the military used to
You just have to
fight.
have it around you.
You know, you have to have it around you. And even with all these explosions, that is some weapons already lost you know. So a lot needs to be done, not just about purchasing this equipment, about keeping them safe and under good
Captain Bish is there. Captain Bish.
Yes, I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
We can hear you.
Can you help respond to that question raised by my colleague earlier?
Shouldn't there be safer means of storing these explosives so that it's not dangerous to both the civilians and the military?
There is. Like the group captain was saying, these explosives come with guidelines on how they can be stored safely and how they can be managed safely. And there's always local standard operating procedures that have to be followed by the troops who handle these weapons. And I guarantee you that if those standard operating procedures are strictly followed, you will not have this kind of incidents occurring. And like I alluded earlier, this is not an issue that is very rampant in Nigeria. So we can't say that it's endemic.
So will you say that this is a case of negligence?
Accidents do happen. Accidents do happen. Now, there are places where military bases are sited. If they are planned from the get-go. Unfortunately, some of the military bases that we have in some parts of Nigeria have been there for a very long period of time. And development had actually encroached closer to those military bases. And that's why you have them close to civilian populations. Now, if we are following development guidelines properly, military bases are usually not located, near population centers, such that if incidents of this nature do occur, there will be very minimal casualties on the civilians. So it's as a result of non-compliance with development guidance that actually brought population centers closer to these military installations.
Okay, Captain Garba, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, so Captain Bish, let me stay with you. Now, considering the explosion took place close to where some civilians were living also. Now, is it not possible that we do a general review of our armament where we keep such explosives so that we don't keep them close to where civilians are? You said military bases are not supposed to be close to where people live, but we have had that kind of encroachment. Now, going forward, what should be the next strategy of the military authorities in handling these explosives at different parts of the country?
Okay, right. This now will be a long time.
Okay, Group Captain Sadiq, are you there? Group Captain? Okay,
well, it's also significant to note that we're in a time of climate change, which is causing excessive heat. Like our guest mentioned, these military officials are trained, to keep these explosives. But how do you foresee what, the climate change, and increased heat? Maybe they might not have seen this. How do you not plan?
No, they have a meteorological department, very solid one in the military.
So what went wrong?
Okay, Group Captain Sadiq.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, we're saying that with what happened in Maiduguri, is it not possible going forward our military authorities will now have a new strategy to relocate these deposits of this highly explosive armaments away from where civilians are, so that we don't lose? We're not even talking about the loss of our equipment. We're also talking about the threat to life of military personnel and their families.
Yes, just like Captain Bish said, initially the plan is to have these military installations away from populations. But then as development comes, there is need for a review. If it is possible, you can even relocate the military barrack, because you either relocate the military barrack or you relocate some populations. But I think the easier one will be to relocate those armories that have become too close to population centers. But above that, Like I said, there are guidelines, like the International Ammunition Technical Guidelines, which is published by the United Nations. You know, it provides, for this time we're talking about heat. You know, it has provisions of how you can put temperature control, air conditioners, how you will design the depot where you are keeping the ammunitions, how you will put space between one lot of ammunition and another, how you will, so many reduction strategies are contained in the International Ammunition Technical Guidelines. So I think apart from relocating the armories, you also have to ensure that you comply with all this. Like, for example, in Maiduguri, definitely, you know, heat is a factor. So if, here I'm just speculating, if you have an armory that does not have temperature control, that is a trigger that something might go wrong. So these are some of the things that really need to be put in place: storage, designing, you know, temperature control, and also having, you know, the armories away as much as possible from populations. When population move near, there is a need for review to see whether you still need to relocate. Because like I said, we are lucky. This, what happened in Maiduguri, we are even lucky there is no any loss of life. If we remember what happened in 2002 in Ikeja, where more than 100 people died, so that should have given us. And this happened to the military. It's not only the military that has stockpile of ammunition. The police have, civil defense have, you know, custom and all the other security agencies. This is a wake-up call to do a survey, because there is always, you know, constant check. Even where you have an armory that is well designed away from population, there should be periodic checking. There should be disposal of outdated or old ammunition, because there could be leakages. So many things could go wrong. So I think this is a clarion call for not only the military, but for also other security agencies to do a check on their, you know, armament facilities to see whether they fit with the International Ammunition Technical Guidelines that are published by the United Nations.
Well, Group Captain, the war on terror clearly isn't over, and as more areas become battlegrounds, should we be worried that accidental explosions like this could weaken the military's ability to fight back?
Well, any loss is a loss. The ammunition that are lost now will have to be replaced by Nigeria's money. So certainly, you know, such losses are regrettable, and then no matter, there is taxpayers' money that will be there. So that is why prevention is better than cure. I want to assure you that if we follow these International Ammunition Technical Guidelines and do periodic check-ins from sighting, definitely will avoid some of these things happening. Not only for the loss of material, but also the loss of lives that could possibly happen where we have such incidents. Okay,
Captain Bish, considering what both of you have said so far, there is an international guidelines on how to keep these ammunitions, and probably somebody somewhere, there's negligence somewhere, there's a missing link somewhere that probably it's not been followed. Now, if we're going to do an overhaul, assessment of everything, we talked about the taxpayers' money that we're going to purchasing new ones. Shouldn't there be sanctions? Because if things like this happen and we keep moving forward as if nothing has happened, it might happen again tomorrow, it might happen again the other day. Shouldn't there be sanctions so that whoever has a responsibility will ensure that he keeps to that responsibility, and if not, then sanctions placed?
Yes, the armed forces in particular is a self-sustaining and self-disciplined organization. I can guarantee you that there will be sanction within the armed forces if what has happened is as a result of a negligence. I don't know what was actually the cause of the explosion. It could be negligence. It could also be an accident. Like Group Captain said, there may be some old equipment. In actuality, some of those equipment ought to have been identified and removed from, the inventory. So yes, there will be sanctions, internal sanctions. It may not be the sanctions that Nigerians always expect. They always expect military sanctions to be made public so that they know what is going on. But the military has a way of sanctioning their personnel if there is a gross violation of standard operating procedures. The Group Captain pointed that you have international technical manuals on how to deal with ammunition. But every armed forces also have local standard operating procedures that they put in place based on their own unique factors, such as our own environment and our own temperature.
All right. Okay.
Group Captain, do we still have you online? Group Captain Garba.
connection mixing there.
All right. Well, let's quickly go on a short break. We'll be back with more. Stay with us.
Life is politics. In Nigeria, almost every part of our lives is touched by the politics we play. Governance, legislative matters, the economy, security, foreign affairs, internal affairs. Have a feel as strategic plays in the political space determine how we live in Nigeria. The players, the drama, chess piece moves. Be kept informed. Watch analysis of major happenings in the political space and how it affects you. Watch Politics on Sunday.
We're glad to have you back. You're still watching TVC Breakfast FCT Brief. Now, we are still speaking on the safety of keeping weapons and ammunition. And I would like to speak with Captain Garba. Do we have you online now? Okay, Captain Bish. I asked Captain Garba a question about this current situation, if it will affect the military's capacity to fight back against terror. Can you help us answer that? Because he seemed not to have answered that question.
Yes, and of course, like Captain Garuba was explaining before the technical age, these are taxpayers' money. A loss is a loss. Our resources are not infinite. And so, of course, every little resources that we have, we should always strive to, manage and use them as effectively and as efficiently as we can. Yeah, sure. Those weapons that exploded will have to be replaced because in every military, you have to maintain certain level of inventory because, these are emergency situations. You don't wait until a war is brought upon you to start procurement of, armaments. You have to procure them ahead of time because nobody knows when a war is going to break out. And so yes,
this a setback? Is this a setback to the fight against terror?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Is this a setback to the fight against insecurity? Well,
I would say is a stumbling block. It's not going to have that much, significance because, of course, the military has enough stockpile of ammunition. So the worst case scenario, they can move from a particular area where the threat is not as high or as elevated as it is in the northeast. They can move from that area to Borno State, pending when there's, new procurement to replace what has been lost. Yes, it could have one or two impact, but that impact is not something that will be significant.
Okay, Captain Bish, let me quickly stay with you on this. The military is overstretched. Nigerian military, is overstretched. We're fighting in the northeast and several parts of the country. Also, the military is involved. Just yesterday, the northeast governors had a meeting talking about insecurity. Now, how would you, what would you say should be the strategy going forward? Dealing with the crisis in Plateau State, dealing with the crisis in in Benue State, and in some other pocket of states. How should we go? We've been talking about this thing for too long. What should be the breakout point now?
Okay, there is I thank you for asking this question. Yes, it's very clear to all of us that our armed forces are stretched far thin. And it's not just only the armed forces, even the police. All of our security agencies are stretched far thin, considering the myriad of insecurity problems that we have in the country. Even the DSS, all of them are stretched far thin because now they have to engage in a whole bunch of different fronts. But to be able to ameliorate this situation, because it's not easy to train a soldier and make that soldier available in combat immediately. It takes time, right? They will have to go through a series of trainings. The same thing with the police and the same thing with all of the other law enforcement and intelligence agencies. And so for us to be able to deal with this situation, there was a proposition that is being pushed by the Director General of DSS, Mr. Ajola Ajayi. in which he is advocating for communities to have their own self-defense and protection force, right? Yeah. So that they can be, it's not going to be a wild situation, like some people are advocating for self-help. No, it's different from that. What he has been proposing, and I think I've listened to him in various fora where he spoke, and he has even cited examples where that formula had been applied and they worked, is for them to train communities, particularly in these areas where you have all these flashpoints, so that those communities will be able to form the first line of defense in defending their own communities until help arrives. You see, if you take a proportion, if you take a comparison of our population and our landmass with the number of security agents that we have in this country, you discover that there is a huge disparity in that ratio. And so for us to be able to close that gap, we have to somehow get the communities involved in forming their own first line of defense until to hold off attackers until help from well-trained and professional security agents arrive. Because most times, what I discovered is that a lot of the insecurity that we have in this country take place usually in the rural and remote areas of this country. Yeah. And sometimes those areas are located far away from where you have the closest military or police installation. So it takes a while for them to get to those places because sometimes logistical issues can also delay it. There are some instances where networks don't exist, so communication is hampered. And so to be able to fully deal with this situation, I will subscribe to the proposition that the Director General of DSS is pushing, where they can train communities, not resorting to self-help where everybody will be armed. No, this one will be a controlled format in which government will get involved, train people in flashpoint communities, arm them with certain weapons that are already allowed or provided under the law, and ensure that they are monitored, they are vetted. Not everybody will be allowed to carry those weapons. It's only those that have been vetted by the community hierarchy and government authorities that will be able to form part of this self-defense and protection force for communities in these flashpoint areas. Right. So that will augment our security agents.
All right. Group Captain Bish. Group Captain Garba.
You can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. We've seen Boko Haram creeping back and violent attacks are rising again in the north, central, and northwest. Isn't this a sign that despite what government says, we are not anywhere close to winning the war against terror?
Well, unfortunately, all over the world, insurgency is not a dash, but a marathon. You get some, successes, and then suddenly also you have some reversals. Unfortunately, in the last 1.5 months, what we have been seeing is a re-emergence of Boko Haram in their capacity to attack not only villages, but also to attack military formations. So definitely this is something that the military authorities have to work on. There is no gainsaying the fact that what we are seeing now is worse than what we had some few months back. But like I said, it's a long race. But then the more resources you have, probably the shorter the time to get this thing. I want to lend in my own way, the issue of overstretch. In my own opinion, we have been talking about overstretch for a very long time. This is 15 years that we have been doing this fighting against insurgency before bandits came and joined up. In these 15 years, I have not seen any committed plan to really cover this overstretch. When you talk about overstretch, you are talking of numbers. You need to have numbers, because without numbers, people will continue to run and leave their farms. Boko Haram can find gaps. You capture this area, you don't stay there because you don't have numbers. You move to another area, Boko Haram will come back. So these numbers, with due respect, from the past government to this current government, I have not seen a dedicated or a push to actually cover this. And from when you read the Global Power Index of last year, they said Nigeria has about 90 million able-bodied men and women that can join the military. So I see no reason why we should not join. When a country has a problem, you recruit massively. After the problem is solved, you can even demobilize. If you are talking about, you know, the money or the resources to maintain this, you maintain, I mean, you recruit as much as you want, then you demobilize. We saw it during the Civil War. Within 2 years, the military strength was increased by 4-fold. But after then, you demobilize. So to me, you know, I always wonder why successive governments have not put this in. Every day we come and say overstretch. Overstretch has a solution. The solution to overstretch is recruitment. But we are not recruiting. So I find this, you know, very, very, you know, surprising. And I think the authorities should stop mouthing overstretch, overstretch, overstretch. 15 years.
Recruitment that you're saying,
Nigeria is the country, yes.
Group captain, even with the recruitment, we have some people not really applying for this role to join the military. Why is it so? Especially in the southeast, we don't see people, you know, trying to join the military. Why do you think that this is quite a problem?
Well, it is a problem probably because of the condition of service within the military. Again, that is another thing. And again, I have seen the report of the army, even political masters in the southeast calling on young men to join. It's a very big problem. Nigeria being a multi-ethnic society, you have to follow the concept in security sector reform that is also called multi-ethnic armed forces. If you don't have a multi-ethnic armed forces, that again is going to be a problem. Because for a military to be a Nigerian military, it needs to, you know, represent the aggregate of the population.
Group captain, because of time will not permit us to go beyond this hour. Thank you so much for being part of this discussion today. And Captain Bish, thank you so much for being part of this conversation.
Well, that's why we have to leave the conversation this morning because of our time. We must thank our guests so much for joining us on the program. We will now hand you over to our Lagos studio where Veronica Etoma and the rest of the crew are standing by.
It's allowed.
To continue.
It feels strange to be called Veronica.
I told you.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. That conversation was quite robust, and we enjoyed every bit of it.